Hello and welcome back to Entrepreneur Talks podcast, season 3. I'm so excited. I'm about to introduce my new guest for this week. Feel free to get in touch with my guest because all the information about it will be on the description of each episode. You will find the website, social media, contact number, email, everything that my guest will provide, even a promo, something that you can get as a freebie because you've been listening, because you've been here with us. And don't forget, follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube by Women Flix. You will find all this information and much more. Get connected with us. Find more about what we do. And feel free to get in touch. My name is Yola Bastos, and I'm here with my guest that I'm about to introduce. So, sit down, relax, and enjoy. My guest for today podcast is Sherlock. Catherine focuses on elevating the leadership conversation. She works with leaders who see a bigger picture for business than just the bottom line. The core of leadership is that when you show up as your best self as a leader, you ignite the best in others. Higher mindfulness is about creating a more profound degree of connection with yourself and others. Let's welcome Catherine and listen the way she talks about elevating conversations and leadership and mindset. Hello, Catherine. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lola. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, amazing. Great to have you here. And I'm so excited. We just had an exercise that you invite me to, and I'm like, wow, can I share? Do you mind if I share with my listeners what we done?
Oh yeah, of course.
A few minutes ago, before we start our recording session, Catherine invite me to join her on 3 breathings. And for basically, Catherine, tell me more about it, the reason exactly why you invite me to do this.
Well, it's a whole host of reasons, actually. One of the things about the podcast is I've noticed is that, you're so busy getting all the technology set up, and then you kind of launch into what's supposed to be this really great conversation, but you're still kind of lost in that kind of jazzed of getting all the technology set up and getting there on time and all those things. So just by taking the 3 breaths that we did, it kind of grounds you again. It brings you back, right? And it reminds you of what your larger purpose is. It kind of grounds you in that. And then also, we're very far apart. You're in England and I'm on the west coast of Canada, and we're creating this connection remotely. So, as we did it, I talked about, imagining the space between us, because basically we're connecting for rapport, and we're connecting again for our larger purpose of what we're creating for the people listening. I think that's a really important thing, that to remind yourself in business, right? To come back to be in that grounded, that centered place, and what's your bigger purpose?
Fabulous. So thank you, Catherine. I feel amazed and really focused. What I'm supposed to be doing here, like you said, is to bring us to the reality, to the place where we are and we should be. And I really appreciate your gesture, and I probably going to be using this for next for the following podcast recordings with the other clients.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear it.
I'm serious. I love it because I do this with my team actually, but never ever I had this experience with a podcast guest or client. But I definitely am gonna be. It's so simple and it's nothing.
It's so simple, and it's so it's so quick, and for the results, right? So
fabulous. I love it. Okay, so for towards about this, like we just talk about the meditation, sorry, the breathings, and now I'm gonna ask you, what do you mean when you say elevating leadership?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. Basically, what I mean is, well, I almost have to back up in a way and tell a little bit of my story, which is I came from a consulting background. I came from sustainability, environmental and sustainability consulting. And, it's not an easy area to be in because it's kind of a depressing area. And, but unfortunately, the more we go down that road, there's a lot of problems within it. I think the thinking isn't quite right, and we're not really empowered. And so I have this kind of four-legged stool when I think about leadership. And I think this is what mostly people deal with. There's four legs. So the first one is people are dealing with their kind of daily challenges and responsibilities. And that's where most of their energy goes and most of their focus. And then they're dealing with the kind of relationships. Often for leaderships, that's mentoring other leaders. That's a big issue that comes up a lot, right? Being able to do that well. But just all relationships, right? Of all the people you work with, feeling empowered, empowering them, those kinds of things. And then the third piece, if you get to it, the third leg is really working in a way that you're evolving, that you're expressing your gifts more and more, that you feel like you're becoming more yourself every day and deepening into yourself. And then the last leg that we don't really get to is exploring the kind of awe and mystery of this life, exploring the fundamental truths of what it means to be in this life, and remembering that this is a limited engagement. So that piece. And I think what happens is in our lives, we're so busy with that first leg of dealing with the daily responsibilities and challenges that we don't get to what matters most. And what matters most always gets put on the back burner for us. And we think, oh, well, I'll get to that when I reach whatever my next milestone is. When I reach that, I'll get to that. And we live lives where we never get to what matters most. And so I talk about flipping that, and it's flipping that and starting with that larger question of the kind of awe and mystery of this life, and then putting everything else within that larger context. And that changes the way everything else plays out.
From inside out, right?
Yeah, from inside out.
Inside out.
It's like having purpose, but this is an elevation of purpose even. We've seen the results from having purpose in business,
right?
How many results you get that are just kind of effortless, that just kind of flow out of having elevated that purpose. So this is taking purpose to a next level.
Next level, yes, totally. This, I'm just hearing you and I'm thinking, wow, whoever works with you must feel so empowered, because the way you talk, I can see that it's really powerful. The way you touch the business or the company or the person himself. Amazing. Elevating leadership. I love this word, elevating leadership. It's powerful.
Thank you.
And how long are you've been doing coaching? So you've been coaching.
It's kind of hard to say because the two areas kind of overlap. So, and it was really something that kind of unfolded in a way. I did consulting for years, and but there was always this separation. There was always kind of my professional life and my personal life. And then there was a point where they started to come together, and all the things that I had learned in my personal life, I started to bring into my professional life. But it started really slowly at first. I mean, I remember years back doing some business coaching, which I didn't stay with because my heart wasn't in that particular model.
Right.
because it didn't bring any of this part in. And I actually I remember I was trying to bring somebody to a new place, a new understanding, and they weren't getting it. And suddenly I grabbed the tools from kind of my personal life and I just applied them. And I remember him saying at the end, "Wow, do you do this all the time?" I'm like, "No, never." He says, "You should do this more."
Oh wow, yeah, great.
Because I really believe in and have searched for, not using willpower to change. So often we're using willpower to change, to develop, and I don't think that's real learning. I think real learning is embodied and experiential, where we actually change our consciousness so that things just roll out differently.
So you work a lot with mindsets and consciousness and how can I say more? You work more with the fight of psychology, like terrible. Can you explain me?
Yeah, we talk a lot about mindset, changing mindset and things, but I think it's really what we're really talking about is emotions, is really becoming empowered around our emotions. And we're so afraid of our emotions that we use terms like mindset because it's too scary to say emotions. It's too scary. But our emotions tell us everything. Emotions tell us, are we having a good day or a bad day? Are we empowered or not empowered? And we have this situation in the world where we are divorced from our emotions, where we have been taught to suppress them. We've been taught to suppress them as something bad, especially the difficult ones, right? And so we actually don't know how to deal with them, and we end up wasting all kinds of time and energy. It takes so much of our energy to suppress our emotions. The metaphor I always use is having a beach ball and trying to keep it underwater in a pool. That's the kind of energy it takes to keep down your emotions. And it doesn't work anyway because they come out. Like, they come out in ways that you don't want them to because you're not actually integrating them, because you've created this disassociation in your psyche from these negative things. As bad, they're like, these things are bad, and I pushed them away, and now you are disconnected from self. And you can't access wisdom. You can't, there's just, and it's always kind of uncomfortable. It's like you're always on guard against this bad guy in yourself that you've actually created. So that's one piece, is like taking back the power, because you've given away your power when we've done that. We've all given away our power by kind of doing this. And then there's the part of the right brain and left brain. It's the same thing. We've taken the left brain and said, oh, you're superior, that all this right brain stuff, these emotions, they're all second-class citizens. And the left brain, that's the reality. That's, the superior part. But what you've done again is, that's not healthy. Like, we're meant, and that's not good, clear thinking either. Like, we're meant to be using our left brain and our right brain in tandem, right? But it's something that we have to unlearn the old way of doing it, and we have to learn a new way of doing it.
That must be an amazing work that you do, but also very tough, because all this brain, mindset, emotions, and left brain, right brain is molded by our past, sometimes no, I believe, like, is always from our background, our cultures, and to change all that is possible, but the person as well needs to desires to change. But because it's not just the fact that you can help them, but also they have to want that, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is, when I'm doing that work, we don't do it for the sake of personal development. I mean, that's all good, but we do it we base it very much on practical elements. So it's like, okay, where are your goals? What are your goals? What is it that you're wanting? Right. And then we take the blocks around that. And the other thing is, it's not as hard as staying where you are. There's never been once in my life where I looked back and thought, I wish I hadn't gone conscious in that place. It's the exact opposite. It's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that sooner? Why was I wasting all that time struggling with that? The other thing is, I have what's very different about the approach I take to emotions is that is positive, is that I take these, because lots of people teach you to process your emotions, but it's still like, these are bad guys. These are, I got to clean these out and get rid of them or whatever. This is an integration process. This is to reach psychological integration and cohesion, right? Integrity in yourself. So you're actually learning to accept and love these parts of yourself that you were rejecting before. And so it's actually, because you do it that way, it's much easier. You actually get out of the struggle with self.
That's really good, game. I like it. It's a really good process. Yes, and makes sense. From me, makes sense totally. And Catherine, how do you run your business? Do you do virtual or on real life, like when you're consulting with a client or a company? How do you?
Mostly now I do virtual. There are times when I travel for trainings and things, but I actually I live on a beautiful island on the West Coast. So there was a point in my business where I realized I was setting up to do training and traveling, and it was like, wait a minute, that's not what I want to be doing. I want to be traveling on my own terms. So yeah, it's becoming more and more virtual.
That's really good. That's really good. And do you run programs? Is people, what I mean is, like, depends. If you work with people or companies, do you run any programs for?
Mostly it's been one-on-one or, some trainings and things, but I think that will be the next stage of things as I discover, what people, probably a different group of people, probably entrepreneurs and things, come to me and really want, and so I can provide it for a lower price point if I'm doing it in groups. So yeah, I think that will be the next thing that gets developed.
That's really good. That's really good. Would you like to say something to my listeners about a tip about mindset, emotions? I don't know, something that comes straight right now to your mind, to advise a tip for the listeners?
Well, what comes to my mind is actually about ego, so it's the same case with ego as it is with the difficult emotions. And it's probably an easier metaphor to understand in a way. So we have this thing, we call ego, but we've actually kind of made it up. But if you go out in the world the next little while and you listen, whenever somebody talks about their ego, they will talk about it in a voice like dripping with contempt. Okay. But the thing is, you're talking about a part of yourself, and what you have done, again, is you've taken this box called ego, and you're taking things that you don't like about yourself and putting them in that box, and then pushing it away. And it creates that same disassociation within you, and it's like you're giving your power away. And it makes you stuck, and it makes you struggle forever because you have pushed this thing away, and now you've kind of condemned yourself to struggle with it for the rest of your life. So understanding that that's something that we have made up. I mean, the ego is so accepted as being something real. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you start to ask, you'll find people have put different things in their ego box that they pushed away. And so bringing that home, bringing that back, and realizing, like, stop making enemies within yourself. Stop having a bad guy.
I love it.
And actually, that's what keeps you in that mental and that emotional loop that's going around all the time, that takes up so much energy. I remember one time I had this is a repeated thing, but I had a client, and the first time I met with her, she raised something that I thought was just a small thing. Okay. And I took out the emotion out of it. And so when she would go back to it, like, it was no longer that mental loop, because when you have a mental loop, it's because there's emotion attached to it, right? Yes. So if there's no emotion attached to it, you think of it and you don't get stuck on it. You just go through your day. And so in that first session, it was actually just a short session, half hour. So we cleared that up. And then after, I asked her how long it had been bothering her, and she said 10 months. So, and we all have those things, right? Of 10 months of that energy putting toward this situation, and it looping and looping around in her mind. And we're losing so much time and focus and sense of fulfillment. And you know what I mean? Like, we're not using our minds well.
Yeah, So true. Wow. That's so true. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving this tip to my listeners and to myself as well. And I totally understand and can see. I've been there as well. I've been there, and I can tell you that was not just 10 months, but more than that, more than a year. And that's like when I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't do anything about the past, but I can recognize what I was doing to myself, and I'm not doing anymore. So that's a big achievement for myself as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, and how can people connect with you and find more about your work, Catherine?
The best place, well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or my Higher Mindfulness on Facebook, but probably my website is highermindfulness.com. And if you connect and send me an email, I am in the midst of writing a kind of a free gift, a book on just some tips of handling your emotions. So when they come up, what anger actually means, what frustration actually means, what grief, and what just having a different approach to your emotions. And this is meant as a kind of a reference book, so you don't have to read the whole thing at one time, but if you're struggling, you realize you're struggling with resentment, or you're struggling with guilt, or whatever, you can go and kind of read about it, and it'll just help you bring more awareness to it and be able to kind of bring resolution.
Oh, that's amazing. I want that book. I want to have that on my bookshelf. Or is like on ebook, or is hard book?
It's not it won't be a hard book. In fact, I don't know even how long it will be at this point. It's probably something I'll add to over time. Yeah, it's information I've kind of had in files on the computer for years and years. So now it's like, well, let's make this into something that will help people.
Oh, that's amazing. So when we go into your website, we access your email. Is that correct?
You'll go to the contact page, and you'll or you can just email me at Catherine@highermindfulness.com.
All right, good.
So it's higher and mindfulness.
Okay. All your information, all your social media links, and also your website will be on the description of the podcast when it comes live. So everyone that is listening will have access straightforward, so they can always get in touch with you the way you said. And I will send you an email expecting that or should I go as well on the website, do the same process?
No, you can just send me the direct email too.
Fantastic.
I'll just have a list of people, and when I get this piece done, I'll send it out, and then I'll probably send out updates as it continues to grow. Yes, amazing, fantastic. I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Catherine. Sherlock, right? That's Sherlock, like in Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, Sherlock Holmes. Yes. Yes, thank you so much for this session, for our conversation. I really love it, and thank you for the breathing exercise. And I'm sure we're going to keep in touch, because
yes,
I'm going to receive your book, and we carry on in contact for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Yola.
Oh, you're welcome. You take care, and all the best for you and your business.
Same to you.
God bless you. Bye. This is the end of our session today. I really hope that you enjoy this session with my guest. I love it. Feel free to find more information about my guest and get connected with. He will be on the description of this episode. You will also find a freebie. There is always a freebie from my guest to you. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where you will be connected with Women Flicks, empowering women around the world. Get to know more about us. My name is Yola Bastos, and I'm so grateful that you've been here with me and my guest on this week. I really hope I can see you next week for a new story, a new journey, a new inspiration. Take care. Bye-bye.